You've heard of inventor Garrett Morgan in relation to his improvements to the traffic light, but that's only part of his story. Garrett Augustus Morgan was born in 1877 on a farm in Claysville, a black community outside of Paris, Kentucky. Morgan was the seventh of 11 children born to formerly enslaved parents. Sidney Morgan, son of Confederate Colonel John H. Morgan, and Elizabeth Reed, who was half Native American. Later, you will see how Morgan uses his mixed race heritage in his business dealings. Morgan grew up during Reconstruction after the Civil War. Educational opportunities were very limited. He attended school through the fifth or sixth grade at Branch Elementary School in Claysville. At around age 14, Morgan, like many children growing up at the turn of the century, quit school in order to work full time. He headed across the Ohio River to Cincinnati. Most of his teenage years were spent working as a handyman for a wealthy Cincinnati landowner. He was able to hire a tutor and continue his studies. In 1895, he moved to Cleveland, Ohio, and took a position sweeping floors at a dry goods factory for $5 a week. Morgan spent the rest of his life in Cleveland. He came to Cleveland penniless but hopeful. From an early age, Morgan was creative and inquisitive. His later mechanical inventions reflected technological complexity, but he was self taught, driven by curiosity. He dismantled and reconstructed things to learn how they worked. So when he arrived in Cleveland, Morgan had taught himself the mechanics of sewing machines. In fact, the experience of repairing sewing machines was the impetus for his early interest in how things worked. With these skills, Morgan landed a job at Root and McBride, a large wholesale and dry goods store and factory, working as a sewing machine mechanic. Over the next few years, Morgan would hold similar positions with other sewing machine companies in Cleveland. In 1901, Morgan's first invention was a sewing machine belt fastener. He sold the prototype for $50. His first patent was not issued until 1912, but he already had a reputation around Cleveland as a fixer of things, not just sewing machines. By 1907, with nearly a decade of sewing machine mechanical experience, Morgan was able to open a shop that sold and repaired sewing machines as well as shoe repair. In the first year, he earned enough money to purchase a home and bring his mother to Cleveland. In 1908, Morgan married Mary Ann Hasek, a Bohemian immigrant who worked as a seamstress. Racism partnered with interracial bigotry to make life difficult for them. Mary's family turned their backs. She was excommunicated from the Catholic Church, and both lost jobs due to their marriage. But they stuck together. Needing jobs, they turned to what they knew, sewing, which was key to the success of his next business, opened in 1908. Together, they opened Morgan's Cut Rate Ladies Business Store and tailoring shop. It was a great success. They employed 32 people and manufactured dresses, suits, and coats. Morgan's involvement resulted in an invention that would make enough money for him to devote full energies to inventing things. Inventions are created out of a need to solve a problem. Morgan found that while sewing woolen material, the fabric scorched when high temperatures were generated from a rapid moving needle. He applied a liquid chemical solution to give the needle a high polish, thus preventing scorching. Well, as the story goes, Morgan was working in the tailoring shop when his wife called him to dinner. He wiped the chemical solution from his hands onto a piece of wiry cloth. When he returned to his workshop, he noticed that the wiry fuzz of the cloth was straighter. Could the chemical solution have caused the fuzzy hairs of the cloth to straighten out? Seeing possibilities in this new discovery, Morgan decided to test it out. His neighbor owned an Airedale dog with wiry hair. Morgan tried the chemical solution on the dog. The solution did such a good job of straightening the dog's hair that the neighbor joked that he did not recognize his own dog. Eventually, Morgan tried the solution on his own hair, a little at a time, then gradually over his entire head. His hair straightened with no noticeable ill effects. Garrett Morgan became the inventor of and manufacturer of the first human hair chemical straightener. He decided to create a cream mixture rather than use the liquid form. In 1913, he launched his product under the name G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Cream and set up the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company to market the product. He became a member of the Black health and beauty industry that propelled many Black entrepreneurs into American wealth. He made several other products, including a black hair oil dye, and in 1910 he patented a curved tooth straightening comb. Here is a printed advertisement of the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company, located on Harlem Avenue in Cleveland. In large type, it proclaims, "Improve your appearance." The flamboyant Morgan had a picture of a man in uniform and what appears to be explosives going off to promote war declared on bad hair. We guarantee that you can treat your own hair. This may have been a stab at others in the hair treatment business who had agents trained for hair treatment and restoration. The ad went on to advertise agents wanted to canvass and sell hair products. A list of products and prices were prominent in the ad. Hair refiner cream, $1. Hair refiner soap, Italian hair oil, and hair lay fine pomade for 25 cents. Hair grower, pressing gloss, and black hair stain dye for 50 cents. You could purchase dandruff and tatter treatment as well as a hair pressing nightcap for $1 and Morgan's hot pressing comb for $3.50. The ad even had a 25-cent cutout coupon. Nothing new under the sun. The company was profitable enough to enable Morgan to concentrate on other inventions. Morgan did not overlook men. He had a line of products for them. This ad offers men solutions for untidy hair. Hair refiner for him with before and after promotional images. Morgan accidentally discovered that a liquid for one thing could also straighten hair. Another oops invention goes very well. In 1912, Morgan was ready to submit a patent application for a breathing device. The product was named the Morgan Helmet and Safety Hood. Always motivated by seemingly impossible problems that take lives, Morgan described his invention as one designed to, quote, to provide a portable attachment which would enable a fireman to enter a house filled with thick, suffocating gases and smoke, and to breathe freely for some time, and thereby enable him to perform his duties to rescue without harm to himself from suffocation. End quote. He claimed that the device was also efficient and useful for protecting engineers, chemists, and men who breathe noxious fumes or dust from the materials in the execution of their work. The patent application notes a hood placed over the user's head to which a long tube was attached that reached to the ground. In the situations that Morgan envisioned, such as firemen entering a burning building, most of the smoke and fumes would tend to rise, leaving a layer of breathable air along the ground. The tube from the hood had an opening for air, and it was long enough to reach the layer of air beneath dense smoke and gas. The lower end of the tube was lined with an absorbent material, such as a sponge, that was moistened with water before use. This would prevent smoke and dust from going up the tube, and it also cooled the air. There was a separate tube containing a valve for exhaled air. In 1914, Morgan was granted 2 patents for his invention, and he set up the National Safety Device Company to manufacture and promote the new safety hood. They marketed the safety hood to fire departments and manufacturers that exposed workers to toxic chemicals. The advertising offers a 30-day free trial, and the hood costs $25. It was well received. Morgan was general manager and the only non white officer in the company. He urged fellow blacks to purchase stock in the company, but few did. The price of company stock rose quickly from $10 per share in 1914 to more than $250 in 1916. This was a time when race mattered, particularly to potential buyers in the Jim Crow South. Morgan's solution was to list prominent white Cleveland businessmen as executives on company letterhead. Promotional materials featured a white man. For public promotion appearances, Morgan hired a white man to act as the primary salesman, while he conducted hood demonstrations, posing as sidekick Native American Big Chief Mason. In 1914, the same year his patents were granted, Morgan received the first grand prize gold medal at the Second International Exposition of Sanitation and Safety in New York City. The hood, originally designed for firefighters, was also used during World War I to protect soldiers from chlorine gas. While in New York, an emergency occurred that required use of Morgan's hoods snatched from the exhibit display. They were needed for New York firefighters to rescue victims from a terrible subway disaster. Afterwards, fire departments in large cities in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York began using Morgan's safety hood. The ultimate test. On July 24th, 1916, when a disastrous explosion rocked a Cleveland waterworks underground tunnel. The story goes like this. In the early morning hours, Morgan awoke to the incessant ringing of the telephone. On the line was Cleveland's police department. There had been a disaster at the new West Side Waterworks, and they needed Morgan's help. Through frantic explanations, a picture of the situation began to emerge. An explosion left a work crew trapped underneath, 4 miles out into Lake Erie, buried under the hundreds of feet of mud and debris. 2 previous rescue parties had succumbed to the dangerous natural gas filling the tunnel. Time was quickly running out. Within the hour, Morgan in his pajamas and his brother Frank arrived with extra safety hoods. Most of the rescuers on the scene were initially skeptical of his device, but Morgan and his brother strapped on the device and went into the tunnel. They succeeded in pulling out 2 men from the previous rescue attempts. Morgan emerged carrying a victim on his back, and his brother followed just behind with another. Others joined in after the team succeeded and rescued several more. His device was also used to retrieve the bodies of the rescuers that did not survive. Thanks to his invention, Morgan and the other rescuers were able to find 8 survivors in a disaster that took 20 lives. Morgan personally made 4 trips into the tunnel, and his health was affected for years afterward from the fumes he encountered. Cleveland's newspapers and city officials initially ignored Morgan's act of heroism as the first to successfully rush into the tunnel and rescue men, or his key role in providing the safety equipment that made rescues possible. Some reports of the explosion named the other rescuers as heroes and omitted mention of the Morgan brothers. According to one article in the Monitor, a black newspaper, Cleveland Mayor Henry Davis was the, quote, last man to shake Morgan's hand before he went down, and the first man to congratulate him when he returned, end quote. The mayor was highly aware of Morgan's role in the rescue, yet his reluctance to publicly honor him led Morgan to write him a letter containing the forthright statement. Quote, I'm not a well educated man. However, I have a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks and Cruel Treatment. End quote. The unfair treatment following the tunnel disaster left bitterness, but Morgan continued his work. 4 white men who participated in the tunnel rescue were awarded medals by the Carnegie Hero Fund Commission, but the city refused to nominate the Morgans for the same honor. Clearly, the omission was racially motivated. In 1917, a group of prominent citizens in Cleveland tried to correct this omission by presenting Morgan a solid gold diamond studded medal inscribed to Garret A. Morgan, our most honored and bravest citizen. He was also awarded a medal from the International Association of Fire Engineers. But there was a final insult. After customers in the South learned that the inventor of the safety hood was black, some cities canceled their orders. But the disaster prompted many fire departments to place new orders for the safety hoods. Entrepreneur, inventor, hero, and still no mention of that traffic invention. Setting the record clear, Morgan did not invent a traffic light, but a signal. The first American made automobiles were introduced to consumers just before the turn of the 20th century. Morgan was the first black man in Cleveland to own a car. Again, he worked his mechanical magic and developed a friction drive clutch for cars. But his greater concern was focused on the safety of fellow citizens trying to navigate busy roads shared by pedestrians, bicycles, animal drawn wagons, and motor vehicles. Morgan had witnessed a serious carriage accident at a particularly problematic intersection in the city and set out to find a solution to this traffic mess. On February 27, 1922, Morgan filed a patent application for a traffic signal with a warning light to alert drivers that they would need to stop. Yes, the future yellow light. In November 1923, he acquired a patent for a rudimentary version of the modern three-way traffic light. In addition to his U.S. patents, he secured British and Canadian patents as well. He sold the rights for this invention to General Electric for $40,000, a handsome sum in those days. You have been introduced to the business side of this man. But Morgan's concern with humanity manifested itself in other ways besides his inventions. Morgan was concerned about newspaper coverage of events related to blacks in Cleveland. So he started the Cleveland Call newspaper in the 1920s. The paper later merged with the Post, renamed Call and Post, published in Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus, Ohio. He was also a charter member of the Cleveland Association of Colored Men and served as its treasurer from 1914 until the association merged with the NAACP. He donated to Negro colleges and scholarships. He helped found the all black Wakeman Country Club. When he sold the traffic signal patent to General Electric, he used the $40,000 to purchase a 121-acre farm in Huron County in 1924. He advertised a village of our own, offering 247 lots for $60 each. Wakeman Country Club was one of Ohio's early black recreation clubs, developed to provide country pleasures, offering fishing, hunting, swimming, and horseback riding. A restaurant, dance hall, and amphitheater provided cultural and boxing events. In 1931, Morgan entered politics and ran unsuccessfully as an independent for the Cleveland City Council. He promised during the campaign, quote, "If elected, I will try to lead the people of the 3rd District to equal representation in the affairs of city government," end quote. His platform included relief for the unemployed, more efficient administration, improved housing conditions, better lighting, improved sanitation, and improved city owned hospital accommodations. In 1943, Morgan developed a severe case of glaucoma that resulted in the loss of 90% of his vision. He would live for another 20 years, and in spite of his near blindness, he kept busy. Morgan died in 1963 at the age of 86.